Good morning and welcome to Brussels. Welcome to our info day on the Horizon Europe Work Programme WIDERA, widening participation and strengthening the European research system. I'm Jörg Niehoff, I'm moderator today and guide you through the day. And the day is split in two parts. So in the morning we deal with the part on the European research area. If these are the topics you're interested in, if you're interested in Destination 2, that's the point to be. If you're rather interested in the part on the widening participation and spreading excellence, that starts this afternoon at 2 o'clock. So before we go into the first topic, let me give you a brief overview on the first things that we are discussing. So the context today in the morning is the European research area. It is not a new concept. It was introduced in the year 2000 and revised in the year 2020. It is the idea of a single market for research and innovation, where knowledge and researchers flow freely in Europe. There are 4 priority areas that have been defined now with the revamping of ERA. It's about prioritizing investment in research and innovation. It's about strengthening the mobility of researchers in Europe. It's about improving access to excellence, so have a distributed, well-functioning R&I system, and boosting the market uptake. These priorities are defined in the so-called Pact for R&I, and the activities that we are dealing with this year are still activities that are implemented in the context of the first ERA policy agenda that covers the years 2022 to 2024. On the next slide, I'll give you a little bit the access to information that you need in this context. First of all, the Slido link is important because that will allow you to post your questions. The first link that you see is the link to the Horizon Europe Work Programme that was adopted just a couple of days before. So here you see the details not only on the call text but also the political context. It's worthwhile reading this to get the overview. Any question that we don't answer today or that you stumble upon when you prepare your proposal, there is the Research Inquiry Service. You can post your questions there, make sure that you give a clear reference on the call topic you're referring to, and then it will end up with us and the colleagues, and we make sure that you get a speedy and correct reply to this. Very important is the next link to the ERA policy platform. First of all, you see there about the different ERA policy agenda actions that are being implemented, and again the political context. And more importantly, for each of the different ERA policy agenda actions, you see results, projects, good examples that can be used also in the context of you preparing your proposal. And of course, for the application, you know that it's the funding and tenders portal that you use to submit your proposal. Now, coming to the first topic today, it's about rolling out ERA policy agenda results, which means here we look at a novel topic, something that we haven't done this way before, where we allow applicants to basically choose an area where they want to apply and make sure that the results that have been achieved so far for addressing ERA policy agenda actions can be used more widely. We have with us here in the studio this morning Ifigenia Potaki. She will present the topics on knowledge valorization. We have Dario with us that will present the topics on research careers and research management. We have Yorgos with us on the topic of research assessment, and online with us Pantelis on reproducibility of scientific results. Before we go to the first area, I would like to show on the next slide a couple of common elements. First of all, this is a big call topic. We have here put a budget of 26 million behind this, which will allow us to fund around 13 to 15 projects. So here we are looking at the possibility for applicants to choose one of the 6 areas. So important, you have to make your choice. You can't address more than one. You have to clearly identify in your proposal which of the 6 areas you want to address. There are a couple of predefined activities that you have to address under each area, but then it is up to you to choose other activities that you think add value and allow you to achieve the impacts that we want to achieve. Important for each of the areas, we want to make sure that we reach large communities of stakeholders, which means also certain geographical coverage, and we want to address actors, institutions, individuals that have not yet been taking part in ERA policy agenda actions. There is, from our side, the offer that we create synergies. We all see these projects as doing comparable things, so we are planning to organize status seminars and other activities that brings the different projects under this topic together. There is the possibility for you to use financial support to third parties, basically launching small calls for proposals in order to then address other communities and provide them with financial support. On the evaluation, there's a specific topic here because we have here a so-called portfolio approach. So we will make sure that the 13 to 15 projects we select complement each other and we don't fund activities that are duplicating in activities that are already funded in a different proposal. With this, I would go to Pantelis, our online speaker, for the first topic on reproducibility of scientific results. Please, Pantelis, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jörg. Good morning also from my side. So yes, let me present then the topic on strengthening the uptake of solutions for the reproducibility of scientific results. This is the first area in the topic that you just described. This area is supposed to address Air Action 1, that aims to support the open sharing and access and reuse of research data, all centered around the FAIR principles, the principles on findability, accessibility, interoperability, and reproducibility. And within this context, practices that increase the reproducibility of scientific results also contribute to higher reuse of results, increased efficiency, and overall quality of research. Now, these specific areas aims to support the uptake of state-of-the-art tools, practices, and methodologies that can increase the reproducibility of research results. And it's supposed to draw from activities and results of any projects, networks, initiatives currently taking place, producing results across Europe. The kind of factors that we should be looking into for this kind of area is research performing organizations, research funding organizations, as well as researchers, scientific publishers, and scientific and infrastructure providers. The expected outcomes of this area is to have a wider implementation of interventions, policies, practices, methodologies in research performing organizations to increase their reproducibility of research results. Second, better understanding by researchers, but as well as policymakers, in research institutions and scientific service providers for the effectiveness of this kind of interventions in increasing the reproducibility of research results. And finally, a longer-term impact is to increase the proportion of reproducible results from publicly funded research. Next slide, please. Yes, so the key elements in terms of activities under this area are first to support deploying and demonstrating and upscaling intervention in environments, in real-life environments, for increasing the reproducibility of research result. We want to ensure that these interventions have a sufficient duration and scale that will allow the projects to also assess their effects. How effective have they been in achieving the objectives, which should be around the increase of reproducibility of research results. Second, another activity that we're highlighting here is that it may include the application of policies, engagement in practices, or mainstreaming the utilization of tool services and infrastructures. Also monitor and analyze the effects of the interventions and develop recommendations based on this analysis. This links to the first point where we say that these activities should be having sufficient duration to allow them to effectively assess what has been their effect in achieving the objectives. The next point is on supporting mutual learning and exchange of best practices, dissemination of results across organizations in Europe. And finally, building on the results of previous Horizon projects and other relevant projects and initiatives, and engage in cooperation with ongoing projects. For what concerns horizontal projects, there have been a number of projects specifically dedicated on reproducibility, supported by calls in Work Programme 22 and Work Programme 24. But here we are referring to these projects as well as other relevant projects and initiatives in the area. That's all from me for what concerns area 1 of this topic. And I now pass the floor to Georgios, if I'm not mistaken, for the next area.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Pantelis. Indeed, we continue with Georgios on the research assessment, please.
Thank you. So area 2, advanced reforms to research assessment. This is clearly linked to the policy agenda action in the area on this topic. And here we can see from the outset the kind of impact that it aims to have, like support the reform of research assessment towards recognizing the diversity of research practices, contributions, roles, activities, outputs to achieve a higher quality and impact of research. So if we go to the expected incomes, you can see that what we aim here to do with the rollout of this action is to increase awareness and trust among researchers and research organizations, and of course always with a reference to reform of research assessment. We also, in the spirit of this topic, want to increase the uptake of good practices and recommendations as they emanate from the Coalition of Advancing the Reform of Research Assessment and other initiatives. We can name here DORA, but generally initiatives that work on decisions and promote the reforms that we want to see. And as always, we want to have an increased knowledge by researchers, organizations and policymakers about the limiting factors that exist and the enablers in order to move forward and achieve our goals in the reform of research assessment. The target groups, as described before by Pantelis, are fairly similar. They are supposed to involve a diverse area of organizations like universities, other research performing organizations, funding organizations, academic societies and learned societies, researchers and support staff from diverse disciplines and at various career stages, which is always an important element. As I mentioned at the beginning, this supports the relative policy agenda action, which is action number 3, and you can find all these more details in the documents that exist online on the agenda. And we move on to the key elements. So the key elements that we would like to include in this action is how to identify and to reach out to the research community, how to reach out to the research community and the support staff and raise awareness, develop and coordinate actions for awareness raising and reforms uptake, including through workshops, training and associated materials. So generally speaking, all these actions produced in this kind of deployment initiative that pertain to workshops and training and other things of that order, support the development of change management strategies in order to facilitate implementation of reforms, of course, and to build trust. And at the same time, which is important and it links to the actions of COARA, the existing organizations support the COARA working groups and national chapters, and the other communities of practice that exist so that they can identify the barriers and enablers and they can forge common pathways and successful pathways in attaining the goal of reforming research assessment. Thank you.
Wonderful. And now we continue with Dario, that presents Area 3 on research careers and Area 6 on research management. Please, Dario.
Thank you very much, Jörg. So Area 3 focuses on establishing communities of practice to strengthen research careers in Europe. This is linked to Action 4 of the ERA policy agenda. The approach here is to have a cooperative approach to support stakeholders in implementing the Council recommendation on research careers of December 2023, which established a new European framework for research careers and also the new European Charter for Researchers. Here, what we want to achieve is an inventory of good practices and of lessons learned that stakeholders at organizational level can use in order to support the implementation of the new framework and of the new European Charter for Researchers, so that an increased number of organizations in all sectors can implement the new framework. And overall, we aim to have better working conditions and employability for researchers, in particular for early career researchers who have special needs. Target groups are here research performing and research funding organizations, organizations of researchers, governmental organizations, and any other employers of researchers in the public and private sector. In the next slide, we can see once again that this area supports the implementation of the outcomes of Action 4 of the ERA policy agenda, and that we want to foster the implementation of the Council recommendation and of the Charter at organizational level. And what is also important to highlight is that the consortia should build on the results and recommendations of the Policy Support Facility Mutual Learning Exercise on Research Careers, which addresses the national level and which has been ongoing for about a year. It's now about to conclude with some results, recommendations, but also consortia should build on any other relevant projects and initiatives at European and national level. We also have some previous Horizon Europe funded projects which are specifically mentioned in the call, but of course that is non-exhaustive. Key elements: we require intersectoral consortia of at least 15 partners, which should create an inclusive community of practice that can foster cooperation and exchange of good practices for organizations to support the implementation of the new framework. It is also required that consortia demonstrate to what extent they will involve stakeholders outside the consortium, and there is also a minimum list of activities to perform, such as mapping of challenges, exchanging good practices, mutual learning events and other networking activities, and also the development and dissemination of recommendations for peers and for policymakers. That's all for area 3. We can move to area 6, which focuses on strengthening capacities and recognition for research management. This area is linked to Action 17 of the ERA policy agenda, which was focusing on capacity building and recognition of research management in the European research area. Here, the objective of the area is to establish a network for research management in order to foster collaboration and have an harmonization of practices and overall to enhance the recognition of research management in the European research area. So when it comes to expected outcomes, we want to have this collaborative network where there is information sharing of good practices, so that we can have overall better quality and more consistent research management. We also aim to achieve an enhanced professional recognition of research managers and also easier career progression and mobility. And we aim to have an increased availability of training for research managers, as well as good institutional practices spread across organizations, in particular in those cases where this is needed the most. Target groups here are current and aspiring research managers, as well as their employers, human resources departments, career advisors, educational institutions, and policy makers. And in the next slide, we can see once again that the area is linked to Action 17. And also in this case, we want to build on any other projects and initiatives, including those funded by Horizon Europe. There were 2 projects specifically on research management that are in fact still ongoing. So we want to support the uptake of good practices, results and recommendations stemming also from those other projects and initiatives. Key elements to underline here: we expect the creation of a centralized online hub for networking and for information sharing. there should be also the creation of tailored training programs. And here it is important to note the alignment with the newly developed, newly launched European Competence Framework for Researchers, RMComp, and also the development of career guidance services for research managers. And then finally, we expect a strategic communication plan with a number of activities that can overall support the raising of the profile and recognition of research management.
Thanks a lot, Dario. And we continue with Iphigenia on the two topics on knowledge valorization, please.
Exactly. So the last two topics of this session are about knowledge valorization and in particular about rolling the results of the ERA policy agenda in the field of knowledge valorization, focusing on the uptake of the guiding principles for knowledge valorization and the 4 codes of practice that followed. The first topic is about establishing a European network of knowledge valorization intermediaries. So in 2022, the Council adopted the guiding principles for knowledge valorization, which address policymakers at national, regional and local level and include all research and innovation actors. So the guiding principles make a specific set of organizations with different roles, which organizations also in their other types of activities promote knowledge valorization. And the idea of this area is exactly to create a network of these different types of organizations with different profiles and roles that support knowledge valorization, so that on the one hand they can be more recognized for this role, and on the other hand they can be supported to strengthen their skills and capacities so that they can do a more effective job for knowledge valorization, as well as more aligned to the Commission policy, the guiding principles and the codes of practice. So the first outcome of this area is the establishment of the network. This should connect academia, industry, society and policymakers and aim to provide increased recognition of the various profiles and roles of these types of organizations that we call knowledge valorization intermediaries. And they can include, for example, science parks, innovation hubs, living labs, and so on. The second expected outcome, of course, having established the network, is not just about having a network there, but it's really about sharing resources and tools so that they can support the uptake of the guiding principles and the codes of practice. And finally, to enhance the capacities and the skills of the knowledge valorization intermediaries of the network in order to better connect industry, academia, society, and policymakers. So the target group of this area is the broad range of institutions that can play the role of intermediaries for knowledge valorization. Next slide, please. So this, as I said, is about promoting the uptake of the guiding principles and the 4 codes of practice. The codes of practice are Commission recommendations which have been adopted in the last 2 years on the management of intellectual assets, on the standardization in the European research area, and more recently on citizen engagement and industry-academia co-creation. Let me just say now, because it's very much relevant to this topic, even if it's a small parenthesis to the topic text, that the Commission has now is now running a survey on the awareness of R&I actors and the uptake of the codes of practice. The survey will be open until the end of the month, 30th of May, and I would really encourage everyone who is involved in research and innovation to take just a few minutes that the survey takes to give us the feedback on a few questions. You do not need to be aware of the codes or involved in knowledge valorization. The idea is really to reach the broader communities of research and innovation stakeholders. So I close this gap now. Just to say, the survey is very easy to be found on the ERA policy platform and also on the knowledge valorization platform, as well as the link. Now, the key elements, sorry, can you please go back, because this was just a small parenthesis on the topic. So the key elements, again, is to set up the network. The network should develop trainings and a knowledge valorization toolbox. So they can use a lot of existing tools, which some of them are available in the knowledge valorization platform, for example. Some of them are at the national level, so they can use what already exists as tools, as well as develop new tools. But the idea is that the network will also produce and develop a toolbox which will be helpful to uptake the codes of practice on knowledge valorization and will be freely available to all research and innovation actors. Very important also is the point of cross-border secondments between intermediary organizations, so that different intermediaries in the network can enable the secondment of staff. We really want to test this idea, how well it can work within the network and for knowledge valorization, as well as the other activities that are listed here, the replication of best practices, as well as new approaches to improve and increase awareness and outreach. The next one, please. Okay, the next area is about upgrading the capacities of knowledge and technology transfer professionals in universities and research performing organizations. So here the idea is that the KTOs and TTOs in universities and research performing organizations need to further upgrade their services in order to support the new approach to knowledge valorization, which goes beyond knowledge transfer and which includes, for example, societal engagement, informing policy making, and so on. So our aim here is to enhance the capacities and skills of knowledge transfer professionals in knowledge transfer offices and similar in universities and research performing organizations, so that they can better detect the potential market and societal value of research and innovation results, as well as upgrade their services, especially also taking into account the societal dimension and the policy uptake dimension, as well as promoting the broader multi-stakeholder collaboration. And finally, new curricular and training models for students and researchers, which will respond to their needs and will facilitate the uptake of the codes and the broader, more effective knowledge valorization approach. Here, the target groups are, of course, the KTOs and the TTOs, but the consortia should also include other stakeholders, such as societal and industrial actors and policymakers. Just 3 seconds on the next one. Okay, so the key elements, apart from the coordination of actions, the new services and the adaptation of existing services, and very important, the engagement, the broader engagement of societal and industrial actors, as well as policymakers, and developing links to other parts of the work program, such as the EIC Accelerator and the European missions.
Thanks a lot, Iphigenia. So now we have a couple of minutes left for questions that will come in via Slido. Perhaps the first one from my side to you, Dario, for the community of practice for the research careers. You mentioned the mutual learning exercise. We will publish the report on our policy platform, but when can users expect to see the report being online?
Yes, the mutual learning exercise is actually finishing this week on Thursday with a dissemination event, and the final report will be published in parallel. So as of, let's say, the end of this week, the final report of the MLE will be publicly accessible.
Okay, thank you. Good. So there is a first question coming in on the possibility for consortia to apply with multiple proposals. Of course, this is in principle possible, but you have to be very careful because the topics are very specific in the target groups that we want to see addressed. And having the same consortia apply with multiple proposals puts for me a little bit in question how targeted you can be in your activities, because we want to have also clear competences and capacities in each proposal that are relevant for the different topics. Now, perhaps on the question of knowledge valorization, there is a reference on the gender gap, and how would applicants deal with that issue, Evgenia?
Yes, thank you very much for this question to the audience, because I didn't have time to mention this, but it is an important element in the text and in the topic, in the area. So the idea here is not about the staff of knowledge and transfer organizations, but about how they can support gender equality and closing the gender gap in knowledge valorization issues through the design of their activities, through the development of these new services that they are supported to develop. For example, we know that women are much underrepresented when it comes to patent applications. The figures were like 9%. So what can the KTOs and TTOs do to address these gender issues where they exist with the services and the new tools that they would develop?
Okay, thanks a lot, very clear. There is a question in general on the financial support to third parties. Let me take that one. So first of all, it's not at all compulsory to use financial support to third parties. It's rather on the contrary. You have to justify in your proposal why you need that possibility and how you plan to implement that. And so there is no disadvantage for proposals coming without financial support to third parties, nor there is advantage for those coming with. It has to be seen in the context on how you argue that you will achieve the objectives of the topic you address. Perhaps we have here a question again for the area 3. Dario, that would be for you, right?
Yes, thank you, Jörg. So the question is on whether organizations of researchers, such as Researchers Network, can apply. And yes, indeed. The call makes reference also to researchers' organizations. So indeed, here we need to consider the objective, which is to have the widest possible implementation of the Council recommendation, so of the new European framework and of the Charter. So of course, Researchers Network are not only welcome, but highly welcome.
Okay, thanks a lot. We are getting a lot more questions on financial support to third parties. So perhaps a general reference here. If you go to the work program of Horizon Europe, there is a document that is called the General Annexes. In there, you find a detailed description on the requirements for financial support to third parties. So in your proposal, you have to describe certain things. For example, who do you address with the call? What is the limit that you plan to grant in these calls? You will have to publish your calls that you launch as a consortium on the funders and tenders portal, etc., etc. So if you're interested in using that possibility, be aware of the complexities and make sure that you consult the general annexes on the details on how to prepare this part of your proposal. Now we have a question on QARA, on research assessment. Yorgos, the question has disappeared now. That was a little bit fast. Yes, can QARA non-members apply?
There is a short answer to this. Yes, they can. This is not explicitly dedicated and aiming for QARA members to apply. So the organizations are mentioned in the topic, in the area, to give an idea of what we are aiming for. And generally organizations that work on the issue of reform of research assessment or research assessment are much welcome.
Okay, thanks a lot. There's again a question in general on institutions, legal entities participating in multiple proposals. Of course, there is no problem for one organization to be part of consortia that address different topics. So that is up to you to decide where you want to apply and where to put your resources. There's a question for you, Pantelis, on the reproducibility of scientific results. Should activities include the development of new tools or methodologies? To what extent do we allow applicants to develop their own tools and methodologies?
Thanks, Jörg. Well, the overall aim of the topic is on the uptake of results, existing results coming from that support the ERA policy agenda, and this is also, of course, the aim of Area 1. We may explicitly refer to deploying, demonstrating, and upscaling intervention, monitoring, and analyzing their effects, and then following up with mutual learning, exchange, and dissemination of best practices. So it could be possible that there could be adaptations or modifications or evolutions of interventions in order to deploy them and demonstrate them in specific communities. But the focus is not on developing new tools through this area. The focus is on uptaking the results of that already exist and have been developed in the community from different projects and initiatives.
Thanks a lot. There was a question on, and that's an important one, on the possibility to cover several areas. How valuable will it be perceived by the assessors, the evaluators, if you cover several areas in your proposal? Well, the answer is very clear. They will not appreciate that because they will be instructed that these proposals basically do not provide the necessary focus. We invite applicants here really to focus on one area. You have to choose in your proposal one area only and have to indicate clearly how you address the objectives and expected outcomes of that specific area. So don't try to address with your proposal more than one. There is a question on the knowledge valorization network, the European network, Iphigenia. Would we expect to finance only one or more? And if there are more than one, how do we expect them to differ from each other?
So maybe I can say more about the last part, because I think you explained, Jörg, that it depends on how good the proposals are for the ranking. So of course we hope that we get very good proposals, and so that we can finance more than one proposal with the budget of the whole pool. So keeping that in mind, I would say that what we want is that the network is really a European network. So it is big, it is not specialized, it is not very much targeted only in one area. But at the same time, it could be a good idea to develop some kind of focus in case, you know, we have more than one network, so that they can show what is so special about each proposal. And then they can hopefully develop synergies between them and work together in some activities.
Okay, thanks a lot. Good. We are now running out of time. Let me just take one last quick question that I saw passing by. It was on the type of funding we're providing. So this is a topic that has 100% funding rate. It is coordination and support actions, and we're using actual cost and not lump sum. With this, I have to thank Iphigenia, Dario, Georgos and Pantelis for the presentation and the discussion. Many thanks. We will break for a couple of minutes just to change the setup for the next round of speakers. So stay with us and we'll be back in a few minutes. Thank you. So, welcome back. I'm still here with Georgos because we have a second topic on research assessment, but we have now been joined by Victoria with a topic on non-profit open access publishing, and that's the topic we're beginning with. Please.
Great. Let's start. So, as the title shows, the aim of this topic is to provide centralized support for improving the quality of services at the editorial, publishing, as well as technical level of institutional open access non-profit publishers across Europe. By this we mean, of course, research motivated and usually institutionally, meaning run, operated by research or research relevant institutions, as they usually are. What do we expect out of this call, which has a budget of 2 million? You can also offer support to third parties up to 60,000 euros, and we expect one project to be funded. We do expect to increase the range of services to enhance the skills and competencies of institutional non-profit open access publishers from a central place, both at the European level, of course, and at the national level. So it's a capacity building call, really. We hope to get increased alignment of institutional non-profit open access publishing services across Europe to commonly agreed quality standards. And we hope to get a well-connected and effective European network focused on institutional non-profit open access publishing that is broadly recognized across academic disciplines. So acquiring the support of the researchers is quite important. Target groups for this call are research performing organizations like research centers, universities, and the relevant research funding organizations, learned societies, research infrastructures. So we would say broadly research relevant organizations, those that have such activities or that offer services to institutional publishers. A little bit of a background for this. So the topic supports the ERA Policy Agenda Action 1, which is on open science and the European Open Science Cloud. It's clearly motivated by the Council conclusions of 23 that encourage EU and the member states to support high-quality, transparent, open, trustworthy, and equitable scholarly publishing. And so our effort goes into this line. We have supported such projects and initiatives before, realizing that while we have a multitude, a sea, I would say, an ocean of such services across Europe, there is a fragmentation in the landscape. They need, a lot of them, we can also put all in the same basket, need to meet agreed standards, to become trusted by researchers, need to become connected to the research assessment systems of the various member states. And you see here is some projects that we funded through WIDERA. This is not an exclusive list, but we wish that we capitalize on the results and achievements of these projects through this topic. So we want to develop and provide services. Therefore, key elements are to develop and provide services to institutional publishers, including guidance and support for quality assessment, access to tool and technology to support in meeting technological standards. And here we see that there is fragmentation as well in fragmentation in the technology. We want to have organized training programs for all stakeholders in institutional non-profit open access publishing to support the further development of skills and competencies and facilitate the exchanges of expert staff all across the ERA. And we wish coordination of services and practices, exploiting synergies and creating efficiencies, including the pooling of the resources at the European level. Such developed resources, of course, should be available to all who manage institutional open access publishing services in Europe in an equitable manner. So, of course, more equity is at the core of this call, capitalizing on achievement and creating European level efficiencies to improve those services, to help them in minimum agreed standards, to help them become integrated into the research assessment systems of the member states. And I think this is it.
Thanks a lot. And we continue with Georgas, please.
Thank you. So now we move on to the next topic, which is again devoted on the reform of research assessment. At the beginning, I would like to mention that this is a research and innovation action. So it's not, as a previous one, a coordination support action. It has a focus on delivering some evidence, and the budget is 2 million. In terms of the expected outcomes, as you can see already, and as I just mentioned, we need to have the evidence that can guide and support this endeavor on reforming research assessment. So we expect to have an increased scientific knowledge on assessment tools and methods and their potential biases and limitations, and of course point to corresponding solutions. We need also to see, we would like to see increased scientific knowledge on methods to reform research assessment, and of course evidence which supports the implementation of the commitments of the agreement, the 10 commitments of the agreement on reforming research assessment. And this should be made available to policymakers and research organizations who of course would be involved in research assessment. The target groups are universities, research performing organizations and research funding organizations, academies and learned societies, researchers, quality assurance and accreditation agencies. This action may require the effective contribution of SSH disciplines, which actually makes sense because this would be an exercise in delivering the evidence of taking stock, comparing, using case studies, studying examples, delivering data, proposing solutions. So this would be at the core of the project. And then next slide, please. So similarly to the topic that we discussed before, this relates to Air Policy Agenda Action 3 on reforming research assessment, and its key elements are to review existing literature and data and evidence, take stock of the evidence on research assessment practice, what we call research on research, and evaluate their validity and robustness with a view to making us understand where are the good practices, where are the best practices, what can be generalized and in what context, what can be passed on to policymakers, administrators, and decision makers. And in this vein, so the key element, another key element is to identify gaps in knowledge and prioritize the fields and questions that require further research activities to support reforms, always in line with the agreement. I mean, you can find the text of the agreement and the commitments that it includes online in the website of COARA. And the areas that this would apply, the identification of gaps and the pointing to knowledge, would be the assessment tools and methods, like, for example, peer review and how to make it increase and enhance peer review from a qualitative perspective, how to move forward with less bias-prone peer review systems, including, for example, the double-blind exercises and systems, the narrative CVs and how this has worked and how this is working. There are a lot of cases where it has been implemented, so we need to see how well it has worked and what lessons we can learn. Of course, the uses of metrics and indicators, some of them who are not really appropriate ones, and then pointing to alternative indicators which are open and that can be used in assessment frameworks, or develop recommendations for new assessment frameworks, open ones and more responsible ones, building also on previous examples and research performed by European projects, but other projects that exist in different national settings. And of course, take stock and point to infrastructures and tools for assessment and how they can be made more open, or in any case more aligned with the commitments and the principles of the agreement for the reform of research assessment. The other element is the reform methods, which apply to how this can be implemented within organizations and institutions. And here we would like projects to examine and take stock and see how we can instill more readiness, or in any case, prepare the ground for an organization, for researchers and research communities and all the relevant stakeholders of them to become more ready and more engaged, and the scientific community, as I mentioned, that can work together in favor of changes. From different disciplinary perspectives, yes, that should be a whole encompassing exercise on working across different disciplines and bringing all of the researchers and the research actors together in that regard. And of course, within that framework, provide support to new research practices and the frameworks that we mentioned before. And the last key element is how to implement research activities on the fields and the questions prioritized, and finishing a bit ahead of time, but that would leave us more time for Q&A.
Thanks a lot to both of you. Indeed, so we have a little bit more time on questions that come from the audience. And so let me pick one. So the question is, between the two topics that we have on research assessment, the area 2 in the first call and what we present now, what are the common elements and where do they differ?
Yes. I mentioned it briefly, but we're going to make it a lot more clear now. It's a good question. The first topic we presented is devoted to the rollout, the implementation. It includes also funding to third parties through cascading, and it's essentially, and I mean explicitly,
and research assessment. How do you see the interaction between those two topics?
Indeed, of course, publishing, as we all know, is the cornerstone of research assessment, as researchers are mostly assessed on their publications. Of course, you know, and colleagues here presented topics that are intended to support the reform of research assessment towards more broader elements that should be considered in assessing, more qualitative assessment, etc. In the particular case of this topic, we know that very often these institutional open access publishing services move in parallel, are often not included in national, for example, assessment list or in the national assessment systems. They're a little bit sometimes move in parallel to a more traditional system that is involved in research assessment. So we want to improve their services at all levels, the quality, as I said earlier, in such ways that they are included in the research assessment processes in the various member states, so that researchers can also trust them, because of course researchers are bound also by the requirements they have of assessment for professional advancement. In that sense, it is connected and it's explicit. It's quite explicit in the topic description in the beginning. So
okay, thanks a lot. We stay a little bit with you and open access publishing, Victoria. There is one question on the central services. What do you mean by centrally offered services? Can you explain that?
Yes, we mean that there is a lot of expertise in various, let's say, that various institutions or organizations offer across Europe. We know that there is increasing collaboration. We have also funded projects to support this, to create capacity at the European level. So let's say I'm Greek, we may have something like this in Greek or in Greece or another country, but is it able to offer services at the European level? So we're seeking to go a step up and offer services to all such institutional, non-profit, open access publisher across Europe from a central, let's say, hub. I mean, we're not imagining a building, obviously, we're imagining a digital central service that pulls together existing resources and new resources that will be developed, that seeks to capitalize on work that has already been funded by us and maybe other funders also across Europe, pull it together, improve it, and offer these services to such national and institutional publishers all across Europe. So in that sense, it's central. So if I am in Greece or if I'm somewhere else, I can still go to this one central place that offers service at the European level.
So you want that European dimension in there.
Exactly. It's the European dimension and the capacity building to overcome also fragmentation. I mean, we know that there are resources built in different places, in different languages, etc., that might be useful, that we can really build upon. I mean, we don't need to reinvent the wheel, but we have a lot to capitalize on as well as to create. And so we think a central place would facilitate this interaction at the European level.
Okay, thanks a lot. And perhaps for you, Yorgos, on research assessment, should proposals address all the examples offered in relation to methods and issues to be tackled? Can other examples be included?
Indeed, in the text of the topic that you can find online, but also briefly you saw in the PowerPoint slides, there are a few examples of methods and tools mentioned. Of course, as is the case with topics in general, these are not meant to be definitive or exhaustive. They give a good indication of the areas that we want to see proposals on and solutions for. But of course, within the spirit of the topic, applicants are much welcome to propose examples that are not mentioned or covered, but they should be, of course, promoting the aims of the topic.
Okay, very good. Then there was a question again on the open access. If consortia use financial support of third parties, what kind of activities would these third parties then carry out when they receive the support?
I mean, the idea primarily here was not, I don't know. It was not to prevent, I could see how some proposers may have ideas about what, other parties can, have resources that may be further developed, and they're not like an integral part of the project, but a small part that can be developed or support existing networks to produce things. So, but the idea was that that they have the capacity to do so if it serves their purposes. So, I mean, we can see where existing activities are there, but might not necessarily be a focal or central part of the project. Maybe that's a way to include others at a smaller scale that can offer a small part. That's one way.
Okay, so again, something that we offer as a possibility, but it has to be justified and well explored in the context of your proposal. There was a question on the RIA topic, on research assessment. This is an open topic in terms of institutions that can participate. So the general eligibility criteria of Horizon Europe apply in terms of eligible entities from member states, associated countries, and non-associated countries. So here we ask you to have a look at the general conditions. So there is also a question on proposals submitted on the level of the whole organization, university. So whenever you build a proposal, you have a so-called legal entity that is part of the consortium, and that is typically the university. But of course, you have to make your choice in terms of the individuals and the part of the university that takes part in the consortium. So that is something that you can organize as you see fit, and depending on the parts of the organizations that you think are relevant in carrying out the work of the proposal, and can of course be also covering more than one part of the organization. I don't see any more questions coming in, so I think we have exhausted the curiosity of our viewers online. But again, if you have questions later on that you want to submit to our research inquiry facility, please do so. We are there to help you also with practical questions on the preparation of proposals. We also encourage you to get in contact with your national contact points, because they're again there to help you to also build consortia. We have a dedicated networks of NCPs for the WIDERA Work Programme, and they will be there to assist you in your preparation. Then I would thank the two of you, Victoria Geragas, at this point, and we have a small break again until we start with our next topic. Thank you. Welcome back and thanks for your patience. We now have our third panel with 3 more call topics. I'm here with Hanna, Ursula and Farah. The topics are about investigating and addressing career barriers faced by underrepresented and marginalized researchers. We have a topic for specialists, for funding organizations, program-level collaboration, and one topic on strengthening a European science for policy ecosystem. Since we will have some time after our slides and presentations for questions, please use the QR code for the Slido questions to submit them. You don't have to wait until the end. You can submit them as we go, and we go through them after the presentation. And we start with Hanna, please.
Thank you very much, Jörg, and hello everyone. I'm happy to be here with you and present you very interesting and exciting topic, and also very important, that focus on investigating and addressing intersectional barriers and challenges that face researchers from underrepresented and marginalized groups of researchers. The underpinning goal of this call is, of course, to strengthen the gender equality and inclusiveness in the research in the European research area. So why we have actually decided to draft this call? We know that researchers from marginalized and underrepresented groups, for example, researchers from racial minorities, with ethnic background, with disabilities, from LGBTQ communities and others, may face important and very serious cultural, structural and as well material obstacles while pursuing their research careers. So these challenges may include, for example, more working precarity. It can be higher level of gender-based violence and sexual harassment. It can be less access to resources, for example, career advancement, networks or other kinds of support of research careers, and other obstacles that may be also on individual basis, including the culture stereotypes that lead into unconsciousness and consciousness bias. So we know that these barriers are here, but we still have limited understanding and knowledge about how these barriers manifest themselves, how they are working, and even more, we know that these various kinds of barriers are often intersecting with each other. So that's why we wanted to focus as a primary focus of this call to have a look on intersecting career barriers that these kinds of researchers face. When it comes to expected outcomes, we would like to see the improved awareness of the barriers that these groups of researchers face. We want also more knowledge. That's the most important part of this call, of course. And we know we would like to see also higher availability of concrete tools and measures that support fairer career advancement of these groups of researchers. Our target groups are policymakers, research funding organizations, higher education and research performing organizations, as well as researchers themselves. Something on practical things, we plan that the call was open already on 15 May, but we will close it in early September, and then we have the budget of €2 million, and we expect to fund one project. This type of action is, of course, research and innovation action, and it is important to say that we expect that more work packages will focus on diverse questions and different ways of exploring the intersectional barriers. Next slide, please. Well, let's have a look on the context and the scope. This topic supports the ERA policy agenda, specifically the Actions 4 aimed at research careers, and Action 5, which contributes to the gender equality and inclusiveness in the ERA. And it, of course, closely relates to the Union of Equality Strategies, including Gender Equality Strategy 2020 and 2025, as well as the Pact for Research and Innovation in Europe and the Council recommendation on research careers. We expect, of course, that the project proposals and the project will build on existing knowledge and data resources, including equality data collection, compendium of practices on equality data, and related actions that we have already funded under Horizon 2020 and under Horizon Europe WIDERA Programme. And they will also invited or explore potential synergy with projects funded under Horizon Europe Cluster 2, which are focusing on intersectional and gender research. Key elements of the project that will be funded is, as already mentioned, investigation from a gender perspective, the specific barriers that the researchers from underrepresented and marginalized groups face at different stages of their careers, development of tools and delivery of specific recommendation of how to design and implement the inclusive, intersectional and human-centered gender equality plans and policies at the level of academic and research performing and funding organization, as well as at EU and national policy levels. And we, of course, want the project to disseminate the outcomes and the knowledge they come up with, so that everybody is aware and knows what to do in case they are interested. So this is all from me for now. Thank you very much for your attention, and I will be happy to answer your question, and I'm looking forward to the proposals as well.
Thanks a lot, Hannah. So the next topic, program level collaboration, is one that has been with us for now the 5th time, but very important, it's the last time. So it's now the time to submit your proposal, because there will be no other possibilities to submit this kind of program level collaboration between funding agencies and ministries in the future. For the details, please to Ursula.
Thank you, Jörg. And indeed, as you said, this call is here for the last time. It's been here since 2021, and over the years it has really maintained its main objectives, although we have a little bit streamlined the text in case you are familiar for the previous work programs, but really the main scope and objectives are the same. But about the details, first, what we would like to see in terms of the outcome. We would like to see the beneficiaries to identify the common R&I priorities, and the consortium is to expect it to mobilize efforts and research from public and the private actors, and this way also to complement the EU missions and the European partnerships landscape. And this could be, for example, using the resources already existing national or regional R&I programs. And very important element here for the successful projects are that the participants really demonstrate a clear commitment from participating programs to pool the resources. The key word here is the joint goals. The commonly identified R&I priorities, they should really lead to coordinated R&I agendas, joint goals, and resulting with the funding of transnational collaborative R&I projects. Important to considering here is really the international context. As I said, the transnational collaboration is something to must for these projects. This call is open for member states, associated countries, and for enlargement countries, and exceptionally also the non-associated third countries are eligible from the union funding. And currently all projects that are funded from that topic already involve non-EU participants. Also, local level is welcome to participate. However, the focus is really to facilitate the transnational collaboration and coordination. Another important element, of course, is that we talked about joint R&I agendas, and it means that all other activities, joint activities, not just only joint calls, are very much expected. Market updates, regularly updates, but this is already up to the projects and the consortia what is relevant for them. And all these projects, they should support the countries to meet their global challenges, including also the relevant contributions to the Sustainable Development Goals. To its nature, usually this call cannot attract very large number of applicants. For this year, 2025, we have allocated 4 million, and that should cover 2 successful projects. And hopefully we will receive a good and strong proposals. For the next slide, please. For the background, just to say a couple of words why we have this call here in the work program. It's really to complement the partnership landscape and the EU missions, as I already said. The partnerships, they have been there in the framework program since already framework program 6 to optimize and to really contribute to public and private players to ensure that national policies and EU policies are mutually consistent. Horizon Europe, however, they bring like quite a major reform. It was a rationalization of the partnership landscape, and it introduced more strategic approach and more top-down approach and processes, and currently all the agreed partnerships are part of the strategic plan of Horizon Europe. And the same applies for the EU missions, which is another novelty in Horizon Europe. Although they are the missions, they are agreed in a top-down process, they really aim to foster solutions through more bottom-up approach by mobilizing citizens, stakeholders, and all other relevant key actors. And to enable really the missions to reach their full potential, the Horizon Europe funding is not sufficient. And it is very essential to establish the stronger synergies and better alignment with other funding programs and financial instruments beyond the Horizon Europe. And we would like to see to increase engagement and activities at both national and regional level. And this could also mean the contribution to roll out the current missions at the member state level. And this call is exactly the response to this top-down approach to have a really complement call to support the bottom-up initiatives, including creating opportunities for member states, associated countries, civil society organizations to maintain already existing collaborations, but also define the new ones based on their own priorities and really support the capacity building. And of course, these projects, they could potentially lay the ground for the future. And however, I mean, these proposals should not be, I mean, the proposal for the new partnership, for example, should not become the objective itself. And the main focus should still stay for the alignment of national and regional funding programs and really jointly agreed priorities. And also to bring the countries and stakeholders together and support the development and strengthening the research area. Currently, we have 8 projects who have been funded from this topic. All of them, they are bottom-up. They are very different from their nature. They are focusing more very specific R&I sectors like agri-food, sustainable solutions for cultural heritage, innovating forestry-based economy, or strengthening the Mediterranean collaboration, or supporting Ukraine to create the linkages with their European research area. And all of them, they will last like almost 27, 28, and it's too early right now to tell about what are the results or impact of these projects, but they're still ongoing and going well. What is important is that these projects from this call, they are very much bottom-up, and they are not linked directly with the landscape of the partnerships, or they are not part of the EU missions governance. It is always like unpredictable what kind of projects will be proposed or which ones will be successful. But it is important to avoid overlaps and duplications, what is already existing. So I have linked here some background information for the partnerships and also for the missions. And this could probably help you and support the project preparations and also serve as an inspiration. But I would like to stop here and wish everybody a good luck and for all the preparations and work ahead.
Thanks a lot, Rosella. Well, this is a specialist topic in the sense of who can apply, but there is also the general interest for all applicants, because most of these projects that we have selected, they launched then in return calls for proposals with national funding. So there are ample opportunities to get involved in these projects. So it's worthwhile to have a look at their web pages, because you might see there funding opportunities that you didn't expect to find here. Good. And with that, we go to the last topic. Father, to you.
The policy stakeholders and actors through the identification of best practices, guide policy stakeholders and actors through the identification of best practices, guides and frameworks. And thirdly, the expected outcome is to mainstream science for policy approaches in national R&I policy institutions at all levels of governance across Europe. As for the target groups, we have quite a diverse crowd. It's mainly science for policy actors and stakeholders, but what do we mean by that? We mean scientists, academics, intermediaries and knowledge brokers, science advisors, policymakers, all political authorities, and also including civil society organizations. But that's only a short selection. As I said, it's science for policy actors and stakeholders. As for more practical details, there's a budget of 2 million euros, which we expect to fund one project, and this will be a coordination and supported action. Next slide, please. And to give you a bit more policy context, this topic contributes to the objectives of the Pact for R&I in Europe, and specifically to the Pact priority on strengthening the interplay between science and policy making. And the need for a structured scientific support to policy making at both EU national and subnational levels has been underscored in several recent EU policy documents and initiatives. And the most relevant one of this is the December 23 Council conclusions on strengthening the role and impact of R&I in the policymaking process in the European Union. And this Council conclusions, they call upon the European Commission to play a key role in coordinating actions to strengthen science for policy in Europe. And I would like to highlight that we don't expect the consortium to provide scientific advice or work on this kind of content itself. This action is really about building capacity. And therefore, there are certain key elements or key activities that the successful consortium is expected to carry out. The first one is nurturing and animating a science for policy community of practice. And what do we mean by this? It's really nothing very theoretical. It's really a bunch of people working on science for policy, both at the knowledge producing side, but also at the knowledge receiving, and also knowledge brokerage or intermediation. And it's about fostering mutual learning and sharing best practices, bad practices, and everything in between. And it's also important to highlight that it builds on and leverages existing efforts. So we don't want to build this from scratch. So this consortium is expected to support and animate the community. Second of all, the consortium is expected to provide operational support to the network of national science for policy correspondents. And this network is meant to be set up by the European Commission, and it will consist of policy correspondents for R&I ministries and agencies, and it will ensure, or it will aim to ensure, alignment of R&I priorities with science for policy systems. Third element that is important in the proposal is the creation of an observatory to map the European science for policy landscape and to showcase good practices, including a repository in a toolkit. And we aim with this to help identify the needs and gaps of the science policy ecosystem or ecosystems, and make resources accessible and showcase appropriate methods, guides, and tools to advance them, the science policy ecosystems. And the fourth key element is to regularly convene in the network, the community of practice, and whatever other interested stakeholder to discuss how to create the necessary conditions to enable the effective engagement between research and policy. And this aims mainly at building this institutional capacity I've been talking about. So, as I said before, we are not aiming to start from scratch, but really on building on existing efforts. This is mainly because there's a broad range of science for policy resources and tools and activities already existing. And I would like to acknowledge the efforts and the impressive work of the Joint Research Center on this. That has been, it is a key science for policy actor and has been building capacity both at institutional, community, and individual level in the past years. And therefore, the Joint Research Center may participate in the winning consortium with their own resources to also ensure alignment with existing activities. So that's all I want to say for now. Thank you very much, and I look forward to your questions.
Thanks a lot, Farah. So on this topic, you can see that the consortium, the winning consortium, will have to work quite close to also the Commission colleagues. We look here to a good interaction. As a reminder, the first topic presented by Hannah was a RIA topic, a Research Innovation Action, whereas the other two are coordination support actions. So perhaps we continue directly with you, Farah, on the Science for Policy ecosystem call. When will the network for policy correspondence be created? What can we expect here?
Yes, so that's a very good question. Thanks for whoever posed it. So we are expecting to create it in latest Q3. So it's upcoming. So July, August, September. So we will be working on it hopefully before the summer, but otherwise it will be after the summer when we will have it ready. So stay tuned for more information.
Okay, that means whenever the consortium that has the winning bid has submitted their proposal and has the grant preparation in place, the network will already be established.
Yeah, hopefully so. Yeah, we're trying our best.
Good. Then perhaps a question for you, Hannah, on the meaning of what we describe in the text as marginalized or underrepresented groups of researchers. Can you explain that a little bit, what we mean with this?
Yes, sure. We do not want it to provide an extensive definition of these groups. We rather want to have it open for definition from the consortia, and we only listed some examples of these groups, which include, for example, racialized researchers from LGBTQ community, researchers with disabilities, and so on. But it is really on each of the consortium or each of the project proposal to define this group and also explain why these groups that they want to focus on are marginalized and underrepresented. With the underrepresentation, it's pretty obvious. You have to have data, but still we need to know or see the explanation from the consortia as well.
Okay, good. Then there is a question from an interested party here. Could we apply to two different calls from the WIDERA program? For example, the call that we had now on program level collaboration and a call from the widening part with the same consortium. Well, of course, in principle you can, but on this particular topic, I think the requirements of what applicants have to do as a consortium are very different. And I believe each of the topics that we have in the work program requires a tailor-made composition of consortium partners. So I think I would encourage applicants that are interested in any of our core topics to choose wisely their collaborators, because it is very different for each of the topics. There is a question on program level collaboration, Ursula. Is it only for research funding organizations, or can the consortium also be built with research performing organizations with links to research funding organizations? Your take on that?
Thank you for the question. Indeed, this call is open for different kind of partners, and the consortia can have the research funding organizations, it can member states, public authorities, it can have also the research performing organizations as beneficiaries, part of the consortia. It is all allowed. And also we can see that the current projects that are already funded, there is a very good mix and balance of different kind of actors.
Very good. Then there is another question on career barriers of underrepresented and marginalized researchers. Does it require a focus on gender as a primary characteristics? And then identifying additional groups, or how would we applicants try to want to address that?
Yeah. In the work program text, you will find that we indeed want to, the consortia or the project proposal, to focus on at least 3 groups of marginalized and underrepresented research groups, but to look at them from the gender perspective. So the shortest answer is no. It's not a requirement. You can select other important angles of discrimination or marginalization.
Very good. Then we have 2 questions for Farah that are very much related. They relate to the technical support instrument TSI, and the question is, how much is this related to the current call? Are the beneficiaries of the TSI eligible to apply? How is this related to the community of practice that was initiated by the JRC? So that's a complex question, so take your time to unravel that.
Yes, so I understand that there's a lot of confusion on these issues, and I'm happy to clarify now, and if needed I will clarify in written if it's deemed necessary. So, well, first of all, the community of practice initiated by the JRC, we are also part of that community of practice. We are trying to ensure the alignment of the objectives of that community with those of the future coordination and support action. Of course, the timing is a bit difficult because the JRC community has just started. I mean, and as I said, we are part, but we're trying our best to make these things happen and to ensure that whatever is developing right now can then merge or work together with the project that will be funded when it starts. So that's the first aspect. Then about the synergies, well, as I mentioned before, the JRC is a very important player in science for policy and may participate in the winning consortium. And also it's a matter of ensuring synergies and building, and ensuring that the call builds on, the topic builds on existing instruments such as the TSI, of course. And about if the beneficiaries of the TSI are eligible to apply, that's something that I think we will have to look into, and we will respond in written to make sure that that there is no legal difficulty there. So I will clarify that in written, and thank you for the question again.
Thanks, Farah. So very important, in order for us to be able to reply to this in writing, you have to please submit that question via the research inquiry facility. That allows us then to give an answer that is also then visible for any other applicant that is interested in this topic. There are 2 questions that are very related for you, Hannah, now on the consortium. So what kind of partners do we expect, what kind of mix, how big the consortium should be, and whether the marginalized groups of researchers that we address should already be part of the research team, or are they outside the consortium and a subject to be investigated?
Thank you very much for these questions. I would start with the last one. It will improve the research if these groups of researchers will be involved directly in the work of the consortium. And when it comes to the diversity of consortium, we do not have any requirements. We only want to, in terms of the content, we want to have 10 member states and associated countries covered, but this not applies to the consortium itself. So there are no specific requirements on the consistency on how the consortium should look like. And in the past, this call has not been yet released, so we do not really have kind of like any reference point to compare. So it's pretty much on the projects and on the research community.
Very good. We have one more question for you, Farah, and I think this is very much about how about a thematic focus or a thematic component in the Science for Policy Network here on the question of biodiversity and the EU Science Service biodiversity. How do you see the setup of the network and the thematic context?
Yes, so of course thematic angles are very much encouraged. I mean, the action is mainly broad, but within the topic and the project, we really much encourage thematic angles. And of course, the EU Science Service for Biodiversity can be a very good example as a model, as a pilot on how to operate at the science policy interface on biodiversity. So yes, it's very much encouraged this, I mean, the inclusion of this in the future activities of the project.
Very good. Then a question for you, Ursula, on the expectations from our side. The selected consortia, are they expected to interact with the European partnerships, with the other funded projects, the missions? How would we explain this to applicants? What do they have to foresee in their proposal in terms of collaboration interaction?
Well, that's a very good question. And as I said before, that the current projects which are already funded, for example, they're very different. So what I can say is that these projects here, they are not directly linked with the partnerships or with the missions. However, they are there to complement. And this is up to the consortia to find the right balance. And if there is a possibility to link them already and to benefit from both sides from additional work done by this project, of course, this is absolutely welcomed. However, important to remind that there is no need to duplicate what is already done, but really to complement.
Thanks a lot. And perhaps one more recommendation from my side. There is a general platform called ERA-Learn, ERA-Learn, where all these partnerships and program level collaboration initiatives come together. There's a lot of material there that will also help to understand what is already there in terms of tools and good practices. We have, I have to see, it's sometimes so, dear colleagues that are submitting questions, it helps us if you make a clear reference in your question to the call topic you're referring to. So there's a general question of a number of projects to be funded. So that's again program level collaboration. The duration of each project, I think, is up to the applicants in general. But of course, you have to foresee a duration that allows you to also implement the joint activities. And if you do so, the joint calls that we are looking at. So I think we are typically looking here at projects that are rather running for 4 to 5 years instead of shorter periods. I think with this, we have covered the questions that we are seeing right now on the screen. Also the question on the same consortium applying for different topics we have covered. So I think we have satisfied for the moment the interest of our audience. Again, as a reminder, if questions come up at a later stage, use the Research Inquiry Service. We are there to help. And otherwise, we start in 11 minutes from now, 12 o'clock sharp, with what I think is my favorite topic, the science comes to town, because it allows a lot of different actors to participate and it brings a lot of action out on the streets of at least 3 cities that participate in this Science Comes to Town. So stay with us, go for a coffee, and we see you back at 12 sharp. Thanks again to colleagues and good luck with the application. So, welcome back for the last time this morning. We are now in a small group. I'm sitting here with Maria, but we're not alone. We have with us also Julie and Mathieu from Brest Metropole that are joining us online on the topic Science Comes to Town. Now, this is a topic that is very exciting because the result will be a program, an annual program of activities that is run by a small group of cities to bring their citizens closer to science, to explain to them what science means for their daily life, connect them with researchers. And that's why we have the colleagues from Brest joining us, because Science Comes to Town starts for the first time in 2026. So we just signed the grant agreement for the first Science Comes to Town. And we thought it might be good as inspiration for you to also hear from them how they prepared their proposal, what made them successful, and what their plans are for this year. But before we go into that, I'm asking my colleague Maria, who is in charge of the topic, to explain you the ins and outs of that topic. And then we have ample time afterwards for questions. Please, Maria.
Thanks, Jörg. I'm very excited to present your favorite topic and also my favorite topic. It's Science Comes to Town. As you were saying, this is the second time that it's included in the WIDERA Work Programme of Horizon Europe because the pilot edition of this project is about to kick off for the year 2026 in three European cities: Kiel in Germany, Brest in France, and we have Mathieu and Julie that will present a bit later from their perspective, and Split in Croatia. This is will be for the second edition of Science Comes to Town in 2027. Getting a bit more into the core of the call, it is more or less what you can see in front of you in the screen in the yellow box. So it's a small group of 3 to 6 cities which will jointly design and implement a year-long program of activities connecting research and innovation communities with citizens and stakeholders around science and the role of science in society. These 3 to 6 cities can be in European member states or in associated countries of Horizon Europe. They don't have to be necessarily geographically close, but they have to be, the majority of them needs to be in European member states. So, but what are the expected outcomes of the call? They are, I'll say, threefold. So the first outcome is the involvement of participating cities and their citizens in science communication activities, and that would also bring to engaging citizens that are not maybe usually engaged or that are not maybe usually interested in these activities. So from a diverse social and age groups, and let's say in a target that is as wide as possible. So the second element is the participation of stakeholders within and outside the EU to discuss science and the future of science in Europe, also including using inclusive and participatory approaches that would make sure that they are involved. And the third element is to offer opportunities to younger generation of researchers and in academia and in industry by organizing EU-wide science competition, but also other activities that would involve them. This is a coordination and support action. The budget is 6 million and only one winning consortium will be awarded. And representative of the only so far awarded consortium will tell us more about later. Let's get into the scope of this call. As I was saying before, the consortium should be made up by 3 to 6 cities, and as you can imagine from the title of this project, Science Comes to Town, the local dimension is really at the core of these projects, and the cities that are participating are the beating heart. But beyond the cities, the consortium can be composed of also different partners, legal entities that can represent the host cities and or joining them in designing and implementing the activities. That those can be library, museums, university, but also actors from the private sectors and even media outlets. Then it's also important to have local partners that provide the link to science and research and innovation at the local level. Something that it's very important to remember for applicants is that the proposal should include the city's commitment letters from the highest representative of each city, so the mayor, for example, or an equivalent representative. Then it is important to keep some other aspect in mind to make sure that the implementation of these proposals has a real and actual impact on the cities that are implementing them, the citizens, but also beyond them, the countries, and EU-wide impact. So the first element I would like to underline is the build and the brand recognition, let's say, of Science Comes to Town. So it's important that applicants establish a link with previous and successive editions to make sure that we really build a brand together for Science Comes to Town. Then it is important to propose innovative and engaging formats that would promote citizen science, science education, and public engagement to make sure that that there is a real EU-wide impact and that no effort is left uncovered, let's say. The applicants can build upon already established European initiatives such as Researchers' Night and Researchers at School, building synergies and finding common grounds. Then to make sure that the impact is beyond the cities, participants and applicants can include what we would call satellite events or satellite cities that are outside of the cities that are participating and of the member states or associated countries that are participating. On this point, it's important to note that these activities wouldn't be funded with the grant, but with other contributions, so sponsorships or in-kind contributions. And this will bring us to our last point, that is that the applicants should demonstrate the capacity to mobilize substantial resources that go beyond the grant, the EU grant, that could support and broaden their program of activities. So we're talking again about sponsorships or in-kind contribution. By now you have heard the expression annual one-year-long program of activities a couple of times already. This is why the program is one of the pillars, let's say, of this project, of the main elements that applicants need to include in their proposal. So they have to include the overall concept for the annual program, including the focus, the scope of activities, and the preliminary program, an outreach strategy to disseminate and communicate about Science Comes to Town, and a contribution to the long-term vision for the cities. What needs to be included under this program is necessarily two events, the EU Contest for Young Scientists and EU Talent Hunt, which we will cover in a minute, and other activities that are funded partially or fully by the Union contribution, but also activities and events that are financed by participating cities, satellite cities that we were saying before, through sponsorships or other resources that are not under the Union contribution. So as I was saying before, this year-long one-year program of activities should engage citizens in the cities and beyond the participating cities, and it includes mainly two events for young scientists. So the first one is the EU Contest for Young Scientists. It's a long-established event. It started in 1989, and it's targeting young scientists from 14 to 20 that have previously won competition at the national level, and the European Union Contest for Early Career Researchers, EU Talent On. It would be the third edition, and it's the fourth edition, sorry, in 2027, and it will target early career researchers aged 21 to 35 to work on scientific solutions to societal challenges that are based on the 5 EU missions under Horizon Europe. This is the last slide that I have included to give you some sort of a recap on tips and tricks that we will give, as definitely Julia and Mathieu are going to be able to elaborate on that as they have first-hand experience in applying to this call. But I would like to point out a couple of elements before my time runs out. So I think that it's very important to get familiar with the two events that I was just mentioning now, so USIS and EU Talent On. You can find the guidelines and a background note in the European Commission website on the event, so I would really recommend that you maybe have a look at that. And then don't forget to include commitment letters from the highest authorities, and also a commitment from the USIS national organizer that can be either included as a letter of commitment or participate as a partner to the application. I'll let you also maybe read through this slide a bit more, and of course I'll take any questions that you might have at the end.
Thanks a lot, Maria. So this is clearly a topic that will require applicants to take certain elements very clearly into account, where we have demonstrated in our call text what exactly we expect. And then there's the creative part where you can develop your own ideas. So keep that in mind, that on the have to elements, you have to be very strong. But how does it look in practice, at least in the preparation? We are now turning to Julie and Mathieu. Congratulations, first of all, from my side, because you made a very nice proposal. I read it myself, and very happy to have you and the other two cities organize next year's event. I guess we will look at you more often in terms of the expertise that you can collect in that journey, because in the end you create the first of an event series that we are trying to perpetuate quite long. And it's not a surprise for me to say now that we are planning to also have this in our work program 26 and 27. So for us, this is an established event, and you're just the first one to bring it to the starting block. Please.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for having us today to talk about our Science Comes to Town application and project. My name is Mathieu. I work at the international office in Brest, and I'm joined with Julie, who's the head of our department. What we're going to do is I'm going to start quickly by presenting Brest and our background. I'll also talk about the call, many of the things that said Maria, but what we understood from the call, what we get from it to build our application. And then I'll leave it to Julie to finish with how we built the application and what's in it. And we'll finish with a few tips and tricks and some of the obstacles that we've met in the past few months. So first of all, as you can see on the map, Brest is located at the far west part of France and of Europe. We are a city of about 140,000 inhabitants, included in a larger, what we call in France, a metropole of 8 cities of a little more than 200,000 inhabitants. And we are the second largest city in the region of Brittany. Before we get into the call and the proposal, we also wanted to share with you a bit of our background, and because it helped us very much to create the proposal that we've offered the EU. So on the right side is our the partnerships of the city and the metropole of Brest, and as you can see, we're twinned with Kiel and Cadiz. So we have strong connection with these two cities that are part of the European alliance called University European Alliance called CEU, and we have especially very strong ties with Kiel, with which we organize since 2011. We organize an employee exchange. So every year we have, for 2 weeks, we have an intern from the city of Kiel coming, and then we have someone from Brest going to Kiel to learn more about the processes of the cities. And for about 3 years, we do the same, but with younger persons from the age of 18 to 25 for an apprenticeship for about 12 months within our department, and the same thing in Kiel. So this is to say that we have very strong connection with Kiel, so it helped us. We've learned how we worked, so it helped us very much with the call. We're also part of the CEU Alliance, as I mentioned. So Brest Metropole is a associated partner since 2022. So we take part in a biannual governing week. Actually, the next one will be in 2 weeks in Kiel. And it helped us build new connection with other cities of the Alliance, and especially Split, which is part of the call. So we've invited Split for the first time in Brest in 2023 when we organized the European Maritime Days along with the EU Commission in Brest. And at that time, Split came to Brest. So we met firstly this time, then we went to Split, and then they came back to Brest in the year after for the CTech Week, which is an international event dedicated to science and technology of the sea that we organize every 2 years in Brest. So we built this new connection with Split. We have that strong background with Kiel, and then we have this common theme, although it's not mandatory, but we have that strong theme of science and technology of the sea. We have many organizations working in that field, whether it is startups, bigger firms, universities, center of research. Therefore, this theme has been one of our main focus in the application. Now I'm going to talk about what we've taken from the call, a little bit of the things that Maria said already. As she mentioned, from the beginning, we understood that we needed to gather a small number of cities rather than having a large number of cities and then small events all around. So we narrowed it down to 3, the minimal number, and we actually worked very closely, but Julie is going to talk about it. We also understood that we had to organize these 2 competitions, and what we did is like we've had a look at our expertise in our cities. For instance, Kiel, they've had that partner called JUFO organizing a national competition for younger researchers. So we thought that they're going to organize EU CYS. In Brest, we have our Technopole that organizes every year a competition called Ocean Hackathon. It's dedicated to maritime data, but they have the expertise of organizing a competition of such big event with a large number of people. So we thought that Technopole would organize EU Talent Hub. And then we had to organize a 1-year program that included ERN, and we were lucky enough to have all our cities already organizing the European Researcher Site. We, when we read the call, we figured that citizens' involvement is also key, so we figured ways of involving them, and then in the project, but Julie's going to talk about it in a few seconds. And then finally, we understood that we had to cover all kind of science and to reach all kind of targets, especially children, but not, although we had that team of the sea, we wanted events on any type of science, from science of the sea to history, philosophy, physics, and many more. And in Brest, for this target of the children, we were lucky enough to have a public policy dedicated to the children from the age of 0 to 30. So actually not children anymore, but still like younger people. So what we're going to do is that we're going to have that public policy dedicated to science in 2026. So this being said, I'm going to leave it to Julie to get into more details about our application and then talk about the obstacles that we faced.
Hi, thanks everyone. First of all, as Mathieu said, we are part of European University Alliance and Twin with Skill. So the story helps us to work together. So the University of Kiel organized 3 days workshop at the beginning of June last year. Brett and Split went there. We talk about our similarities, strengths, and weakness. So also we make suggestions on the new format to bring science closer to the public and the people and decide who our targets would be. As Mathieu said, there are 3 mandatory elements in the call, the 2 competitions and the 1-year program. So we decide, as he said, to spread the responsibility equally. The competition by Brest and Kiel, and the 1 year long program by Split, with the opening ceremony there for our season next January. Last but not least, we had a long talk on theme. Our thought is not a requirement from the EU. However, we want to have some kind of common thread for all our territory and partner. This term is the result of discussion during the workshop and the convergence of regional issues. As you can see then on the slide, the sea expands to the water and our maritime environment, the cultural heritage with two cities destroyed during the World War II and 1 city with a palace from the 3rd century. Health extends to the well-being, nutrition and sport, attractiveness, and how we connect researchers to the business and companies. And transversal topic, Europe and sustainable development goals. So that, how we build our application. And now let's see the obstacle we made. First, keep in mind that you need a peak number to apply for Horizon European program. It's the same thing for all your partners. And this is a bit long and requires some documents. And I would like to add that it was easy for us to work in the project because we have someone on board who knows EU Horizon rules. Is very important for us. So that's how we build our application. Now let's see the obstacle we made. I said that before, sorry. I follow the text. I talk about the peak and now I talk about the call. This call is mostly generated toward university and center of research and is not usually dedicated to local authority. But for Science Comes to Town, the Commission wants cities to apply and be key player within the consortium. However, there are a few administrative constraints that the city face, and they are different than university and lab in the way they operate. I will give you some example. Local authority, at least in France, must pass resolution for their local council for any project, so that the representative give the consent, and this takes sometimes a long time, 2 or 3 months, and there are about 3 council only per semester. Payroll. Almost the EU cover 100% of the cost. The recruitment still appear in the local authority payroll as a new employees. And in France, there are some commitments to limit the growth of the payroll. So this was also a question for us that we had to bear in mind. And it should also be borne in mind that the lead partner must be of a certain size in order to manage the European fund. Well, that's all for us. Thank you very much. And Matthew and I are here if you have any question.
Super, thanks a lot for sharing that. And indeed, it is true. I mean, we address here types of actors that we don't see frequently in the framework program. City councils is not a typical applicants, and so I think what we hear from you and what we also saw in other applications in that call, that a good partnership relies on a strong coordinator that has the experience in dealing with the funding, and then committed cities come into the consortium, but they don't have to take a leading role in coordinating. It is important that we have the cities there being committed in running the activities and turning that into an attractive program for their citizens. We also saw from other examples that there is, of course, also an economic benefit for the cities, attracts a lot of visitors. It is not yet at the level of the European capital of culture, but perhaps we get there at some point. So I think with this, we can now open the floor for questions. Again, the reminder, use the QR code for the Slido to come with questions to us. And there is a first question on the European Open Science Forum, ESOF, whether this should be supported in this context or not. So the answer to that is fairly simple. If an applicant chooses to include in their annual program of activities a conference such as ESOF, this is of course possible. It has to be again budgeted there and complemented also with other sources of income possibly, but there is no requirement at all to include ESOF. That is an option like any other event that you might want to include. So it is up to the applicants to see what is a good mix of activities and events. And on the second part of that question, whether we would have any dedicated calls for ESOF in the future, this is not planned. The ESOF was part of our supported activities in former work programs, but we are not continuing this at this stage. So there is a question perhaps that is directly for you, Maria, on the rules that need to be followed when applicants organize uses in Talenton, where indeed we are very particular in our requirements.
Yes, thanks, Jörg. So there are no rules when it comes to assigning the events that are required as part of the call, such as uses and EU Talenton to the cities. Actually, there are no rules saying that each of the city needs to have one or the other. So maybe they can be both in the same cities if this is what you are seeing for the vision for Science Comes to Town in your proposal. I think that I would go with the approach that Mathieu explained. This is a possibility for sure. Maybe finding synergies that are already there with the existing events organized at the local level. The only requirement, like I said before, is that the national organizer for uses needs to be already involved at proposal level. And then anything else is really, as Jörg was saying, there is a requirements part and there is more a creative part and something that is more really related to your local specificities.
What you will also find on the call page is, for both these competitions, there are dedicated guidance documents that explain in great detail how this has to be organized. So if you make an application, look into this, because that has to be pitch perfect in the application and, more importantly, later on when you organize the events.
And maybe something else, if I can add, is that in the tax call, a period of a year is suggested to organize uses and EU Talenton. So that's usually early autumn or yes, late summer, as you want to see it. So let's say in September, there is some flexibility regarding that aspect. But as Jörg said, I would really recommend to read the background note, and everything will be clearer.
Very good.
Yeah, if I may, I'm sorry.
Please.
Yeah. No, just it reminds me of when Technopole built the application with us, and I know they've looked at it very closely to make sure, you know, they would cope with all the requirements of the competition, the EU Talent on one. And I remember also the period where the event should take place. It actually, yes, in September. That was a bit hard for us because we had other events in 2026 that Technopole organizes in autumn as well, but they've managed to organize it in. I mean, they will manage to organize it in September, and yes, it takes about a year. So actually, you know, even a little more than a year.
Good, very good. No, and I mean, we chose these periods, or they have been chosen a long time ago for good reasons, because they somehow take into account school and high school and university timings. Perhaps also because you mentioned this program of activities, it is specified in the call text, if you read it clearly. With your proposal, you have to write a skeleton on what should happen in the year, but the very detailed proposal with all the activities is only due as a first deliverable when you start preparation of the project implementation. So it gives you time to flesh that out once you sign the grant agreement. Then there is a question whether subcontracting can be used to have certain services being done by third parties. Of course, in this case, it's a coordination support action. You can have subcontractor or other goods and services that you purchase there. And so you can use specialized providers for certain activities, from communication to event organization to what you feel necessary. They are eligible costs. Then there is a question again on uses and Talenton. They have their own independent organizers, or should the overall organization of these two events be coordinated within the year program? Maria, how do we explain that?
Yes and no to both questions. Let's say that uses and EU Talenton can have different organizers. So as said, uses the national organizer that is already organizing the competition at the national level, that then selects the winners to send to uses, needs already to be on board at proposal level, and Talenton can have a different organizers, but at the same time, of course, that they should be organized under the umbrella of the one-year program. So they can be organized differently by different organizers, but at the same time, the applicants should always keep in mind the umbrella that comprises them both.
Very good. Then there's a question on the level of competition that we had for the last time. How many applicants were there last year for the Science Comes to Town call? So I think we had in total 10 applications. Not all were eligible because some of them didn't meet all the requirements. So we expect again that we here are looking at perhaps 5 to 10 proposals. There's a limit to how many proposals we can get, since it requires the involvement of national users organizers, and so there's a limited number of those that are available, taking also into account that some of them have been organizing events lately. So what else do we have here? Would it be atypical if a university were the coordinating institution for Science Comes to Town, or can it coordinate the project in collaboration with the local municipality? So selection or choice of the coordinator is entirely up to the consortium. As I mentioned before, I see there's a benefit to have an organization coordinating the project that has experience in drafting proposals, in coordinating the activities, which doesn't diminish at all the role of the cities that participate in the context. So I think the coordinator, in our view, is simply the primus inter pares. It has a strong hand in making sure things are getting done, but in the end, the weight of the activities on the ground lie on the shoulders of the cities that have to organize the events. So what you propose here in your question is absolutely feasible. I think with this we are now running out of time. I think we got a lot of good questions here. Please feel free to also submit again questions via the research inquiry service. Read the call text carefully, because there are a lot of things in there that I see now also in other questions, in how to involve rural areas, etc., that we provide some hints in there. So please use that possibility. I thank again Mathieu and Julie for being with us here today. Happy to see you soon, hopefully in one of the 3 cities in the activities themselves. Many thanks to Maria for organizing all this. And we break now for lunch. I'll be back with you in the afternoon at 2 o'clock for the part on widening participation and spreading excellence, with a number of new topics and some old friends that we have seen around the block for some time. Have a good lunch break, and hope to see many of you again at 2 o'clock. And again, good luck for your applications if you choose to apply. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us. Enjoy the lunch.
Thank you. Good lunch.